Hello, it's me, I have returned. So the good news is that I have been reading a lot more. The bad news is that I still can't focus on multiple things at a time, so that's all I've been doing. I have been, that's why I went so long between my last couple videos. I'm gonna try to get this one out within the next couple days, but I'm also gonna be really busy with some other stuff, so we'll see when it comes out. But in the meantime, I wanted to chat with you about what I've been reading. I've been going to the library a lot. So I don't even know what the name of the series is, but the title of the first book is Once Upon a Broken Heart. And it's by the same author that wrote Caraval. I'm not sure how it's supposed to be pronounced because I never read that book. But I would just hear about it a lot on the internet and I would see the cover all the time. But, I just randomly picked up a ballad of whatever the heck I just said in the library, and I read that, but they only had the first book, so I had to order the next two from another library. And so then I read the whole trilogy like really quickly, and it was really good, and I really liked it. Well, I felt like the end was kind of anticlimactic. Like, there was a lot of things that didn't get resolved in the end. So I thought she might have been trying to set up a new series, or at least like a fourth book or something like that. There is some sort of like companion or novella or something about those characters. But then when I was looking this up is when I realized that she was the one who wrote Caraval too. And so then I was like, oh, maybe I should read that. I happened to be in Barnes & Noble and I saw it on the shelf. And so I was reading the description of it, and it talks about Donatella, who's in Once Upon a Broken Heart. Like, not a very relevant character. But Donatella and her sister are mentioned in this book, and apparently they're the subjects of the other series. So now I'm kind of interested to read it, because I didn't know that they were in the same world either. So that would be interesting. Maybe I'll do that next. But right now, so after that series, I reread the Ruby Red trilogy, which I read like a few times in high school, and I really, really, really loved it. But I haven't read it in, I don't know, like 10 years maybe. So there was a lot that I didn't remember. Ruby Red was a German book originally. And if you were on like BookTube back in the day, like, I'm sure you've heard of this series and maybe have read it, but it was like all the rage back then. I wanted to see if I would still like it now, and I do, but there's definitely some things that I noticed, like, as an adult. Gwyneth spends a lot of time talking about how fat people are, like certain characters, and like every single time she sees them, she will bring it up. Like, one of them is Lord Brompton. This is a direct line from the book. Lord Brompton and his rolls of fat started moving, and she says stuff like that all the time. I completely forgot about Zemarius, because he's not in the first book, he's only in the other two. The demon ghost that hangs out with Gwyneth. I completely forgot about his character. I remembered Mr. Bernard the butler, and I remembered that he was related to Gwyneth somehow. I thought that it was a thing that Gwyneth knew about and that was talked about in the books. It's not. It's like the last line of the last book. Spoiler alert for a 13-year-old book. But Gwyneth's parents are actually Lucy and Paul, who were other time travelers. I realize I never actually said what this series is about. I'm just kind of operating under the assumption that you've read it. You remember? This is Emerald Green, the last one. I don't have Ruby Red. I already returned it to the library. But anyway, the whole point is that Gwyneth, the main character, is a time traveler. She comes from a long line of time travelers. Her love interest, Gideon, also comes from a long line of time travelers, but a different line. But then you find out that they're kind of from the same line because their lines already intersected, and that's how Gwyneth was born. Because her mother was from the time traveling line of women and her father was from the time traveling line of men, and Gideon is also from that line, but it's okay because they're like really distant cousins. That's how they tell you to chill out in the book. They're like, oh, don't worry, we're like great we're like sixth cousins or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm assuming Mr. Bernard knows that he's related to Gwyneth, but nobody ever tells Gwyneth that she's related to him. I mean, I'm sure she figures it out at some point because she and Lucy and Paul do hang out as time goes on. Like Gwyneth does go back in time to visit them. I have to do a better job of telling you what this book is about. So Gwyneth is from a line of time travelers, and she and her cousin are both from this line. Her cousin Charlotte, they think, is going to be the time traveler because the time traveler's birthdays have been predicted, like, precisely. And Gwyneth thinks that she was born the day after her cousin, so she's not in the running to be a time traveler, but her cousin is going to be the time traveler. Then it turns out that her mom lied about when her birthday was because they were both born on the same day, the date that was predicted that the time traveler would be born on. And so Gwyneth ends up being the time traveler. And the reason her mom lied about it was because she didn't want Gwyneth to be raised in that kind of cult mindset, basically, because there's a whole, like, secret society built around these time travelers, and they are raised to behave a certain way and to learn certain skills and things that would benefit them to time travel, but it just basically means that they don't get to have, like, the time travelers don't get to have any life outside of the society. And so Gwyneth's mom didn't want that for her, and she was hoping that Charlotte would be the actual time traveler anyway, since they were both born on the same day and had an equal chance of being that person. But anyway, it wasn't Charlotte, it was Gwyneth, which she finds out when she starts traveling through time. And in this series, time travel is like, it's like something that, like, has to, like, she will randomly travel through time. It could be for a few minutes, it could be for a few hours, but every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, she's going to be blooping back in time. And they can only go back, they can't go forward. And it's going to be uncontrolled unless they use the chronograph. And the chronograph is a device that they can, like, that can control their time travel. So, like, they can set the chronograph to say, I want to go back to November 3rd, 1914, and then you set the thing, and then you can go back to that time. And so then Gwyneth ends up having to use the chronograph every single day to control her time travel, basically, because if she doesn't use the chronograph, she's just going to go back randomly to whatever time period. We have no idea when or what might be going on. And so she uses the chronograph to go back in time for a few hours every single day so that she will be able to pick, like, a safe time to go. And the society does all this for her, basically. They're like, okay, today you're going to elapse in the year 1956. You can spend a nice quiet few hours in the basement doing your homework, and then you can come back to us and you won't travel uncontrolled anymore. But she only ends up really elapsing, like, a few times. And every single time she does, like, something happens. Like, I feel like there's never a time where she just elapses as she's supposed to and things go according to plan. She ends up meeting her grandfather several times during the times when she elapses. Her grandfather when he's in his 20s, when he's in his 30s, like, when he's young and he doesn't even have kids yet, or, like, he has little kids. The chronograph, has the way that you get it to send you where you want to go is you have it prick your finger. So the chronograph has blood from all of the other time travelers, and there are 12 in total. So Gideon and Gwyneth are the 11th and the 12th. Gideon was raised in this society, and so he has had all the training and he knows all the skills he's supposed to do to be a good little time traveler and a good little soldier to the weird little society. And so Gwyneth doesn't trust him at first. Supposedly, when all 12 time travelers have had their blood put into the chronograph, then, like, something miraculous will happen. Like, the device will, like, produce the cure to all ails, society will be fixed, everything will be great. But Lucy and Paul took the original chronograph, which had the first 10 travelers' blood in it. Lucy and Paul took that chronograph into the past so it can never be, like, brought back, because if you travel, anything you take with you, like anything you hold in your hand, like objects that you hold in your hand will also travel back with you. Like living plants and animals and other people and things like that cannot travel with you, but, like, objects can. So the chronograph can travel, but the thing is, when the chronograph travels, then you will stay wherever it traveled to. So that's what Lucy and Paul do. They set the chronograph to 1912 and they grab onto it, and then they go back to 1912. So that's where they live now. Like, they can't go back to the future ever again. And so the whole mystery throughout the trilogy is, why did Lucy and Paul take the chronograph? Like, why would they not want, like, the cure to all ailments and blah, blah, blah? Like, why wouldn't they want to help society flourish and all this stuff? Anyway, again, spoilers for, like, a 15-year-old book, but eventually Gwyneth figures out that what the chronograph produces is not a cure to like everyone and like all diseases and stuff. It's basically like an immortality potion type thing for one person, and that person theoretically could be anyone, but the one orchestrating all this is the Come Saint Germain. He's in so much stuff. Like, he's in so much stuff as the villain. Like, this is an actual dude. But he's a character in a lot of fictional shows and books and things because he was so like crazy in the olden days. Like, he was really into alchemy. There were rumors that he could time travel and all this stuff. So in this book, in this series, the Come Saint Germain is an actual time traveler. He's part of their line. He wants the immortality spell thing for himself. So he builds this whole society, tells everyone that it'll cure the world and everything, but really it's just for him. So as the travelers are born after him, he has them like come and visit him in the past because he can't go forward, remember? Like, they can only come back. So Gwyneth meets him. Like, that's basically like the first step whenever a new time traveler like comes into, oh yeah, because you don't start traveling through time until you're like 17 or something like that. I think it's between 16 and 17 is when you start traveling through time. And so basically one of the first things you do once they're like confirmed you're a time traveler, you've traveled through time, is they'll take you to meet the Come Saint Germain in the past. She's like, he's kind of evil. I don't really want to do what he wants. And so she's like suspicious of him and the whole mission of the place and everything. And so she starts like kind of unraveling the mystery. And eventually Gideon gets on board too. And it's like not until, but they both don't trust each other. And it's probably not until like maybe this close to the end where they actually like put their heads together and tell each other everything that they know so that they can finally get all sides of the story and figure out like the whole mystery of it all and everything. And it was so satisfying when that finally happened, but oh my god, it took forever. It was so much of them not trusting each other, which like makes sense like why they didn't trust each other, but like it was kind of frustrating. I also have this page tabbed and I have no idea why. Can we talk about how all 3 books happen within the course of like a 2-week period? Oh, maybe that's why I tabbed it. Because Gwyneth and Gideon fall in love, like deeply, deeply, I would die for you love in the course of that time. And like, I feel like by the 3rd book, they're pretty well established. Like, they're not a full-blown couple because they have their issues and their suspicions of each other, so they can't trust each other fully. But I feel like the love is like already set up by the time this book starts. So it's established sometime in the 1st or the 2nd book. The 1st book takes place over the course of like 4 days. And then the 2nd book is like picks up from there and there. But like, yeah, I think that's why I tabbed this, because like they have these such grand declarations of love. All this terrifies me. Without you, there'd be no sense in my life anymore. I'd want to die if anything happened to you. They've known each other 2 weeks. It's not even like they knew each other growing up or whatever, and then they only started liking each other in 2 weeks. No, they literally met like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. I don't even think it's been 3 weeks. Like, it's insane. It's insane how like fast the timeline is. And I also feel like it didn't really need to be that fast. Like, we're with Gwyneth inside her head pretty much every second from the time she finds out she's a time traveler. Like, there are no time jumps, really. We go everywhere with her. We do everything with her. Something I want to talk about is the time travel itself, because this is why I hate reading I hate reading time traveler stuff, but like why I usually don't, because I feel like there's literally no way to include time travel in your story and not introduce like 10 different plot holes every single time. It's kind of like a philosophical debate that they have in this series, like whether you can actually change the past or whether the present is the way it is because you already went to the past and made it so. But they kind of show like both sides of it, but in a way that I didn't like and didn't really make sense. Like, so for example, when Gwyneth first meets her grandfather in the basement in like the 1940s when he's like 20 something years old, Gwyneth gave someone a note to give to him to tell him to meet her there. The reason that the grandfather has that note from Gwyneth is because at some point in Gwyneth's future, but in his past, Gwyneth also goes back into the past, like previous to this meeting, previous to the 1940s. It was like earlier than that. I don't remember when. And she has a meeting with someone else, and she's like, oh, by the way, and she scribbles the note, and she's like, make sure my grandfather gets this note because it's really important, because that's how we meet in the first place. So like things are happening the way they are because time is a circle, and like you're making them happen that way. See, this is why I don't like time traveler stuff, because it makes my head spin, but like this series is really, really good. It's worth it. It's so funny too. It's so funny. Gwyneth's like internal monologue is hilarious, and then when they add Zemarius in the second book, and he's really funny too. And I really liked that they added Zemarius too, because he was like an ally that she could have like in the society. Not that he was really able to do anything, because he can't like control things because he's a ghost demon, whatever. It was fun to just have him there for her to talk to, and it was really funny when he tried to time travel with her. He's like, oh goody, let's go. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was talking about the confusion of the circle of time traveler. So you find out in the end of the third book that the Comte Saint Germain did get the like immortality potion thing because he's still alive and he's part of the society now, like kind of making sure things go right on that end so that his past self will receive his little potion thing to become immortal. And long story short, Gideon and Gwyneth complete the circle, like they get all 12 time traveler blood people in the same chronograph so that they get the immortality thing, and they do bring it back to him in the past. So again, the reason that the Comte Saint Germain is alive and well in 2011 when this book takes place is because they went back to the past and made it so. But then there are times when the time travelers are able to change the past. The Comte Saint Germain goes back into the past, and he kills someone who was supposed to die like years later. So he shortened that person's original lifetime. So he changed the past from what it was in his present. Then there was a time where there's this other ghost that Gwyneth knows, called James, who he died of smallpox when he was like 21. And she knows him because he's a ghost, because he died in her school where there used to be his house. And so she sees him every single day. So she goes to the past and she meets him, and she gives him a smallpox vaccination so that he lives, so that he doesn't die at 21 in his house from smallpox. And so she does change the past, because then when she goes back to the present, James's ghost isn't haunting the school anymore. He's not there. But that should mean that he was never there, and that like her memory would be altered, like she would forget who James even was, right? Because James in this timeline never became a ghost at 21 in his house in the school. And so Gwyneth never would have met him. But you know, and that doesn't happen. Oh yeah, and then there's the whole thing with the chronograph going back in time. So there's only 2 chronographs. No one was ever able to make another chronograph. And so it was only the 2. And the one chronograph didn't even work very well. So when Lucy and Paul took the original, like normal one that everyone had been using for hundreds of years at that point into the past, it was like a huge deal because they weren't even sure if their spare chronograph would work. So the society thing spent like the years between Lucy and Paul and Gideon and Gwyneth fixing up the second chronograph and making sure that Gideon could use it when he started being able to travel. Because there was like a 20-year gap between them. Between like when Lucy and Paul disappeared and when Gwyneth and Gideon became time travelers. Lucy and Paul take the chronograph into the past, into 1912. And you're like, okay, so now in our timeline, there's only 1 chronograph. Meanwhile, in 1912, there's 3 chronographs, because there's still the original one that all the time travelers have been using, and the time travelers at that point in 1912, I think were Margaret Tinley, and there was a set of twin boys who were using the chronograph at that point. Meanwhile, the secret society still had their trash to spare, but also Lucy and Paul have one now. Of course, the society doesn't know about the one Lucy and Paul have, but there's 3 chronographs now. And there are 3 chronographs until the 90s, when Lucy and Paul disappear with it. So now, from like the 90s to 2011, there's only 1 chronograph. But then you're like, okay, but it's the past though. It's the past. So the chronograph never actually disappeared from existence. They just brought it into the past. And so the chronograph will age just like everything else does. Or not age, but continue to exist throughout time, just like the same as like Gwyneth's house or like anything else. And so Gwyneth eventually finds the chronograph that Lucy and Paul brought back to the past with them. And so I'm like, okay, that makes sense that the chronograph would still exist because they only brought it into the past. It's not like they destroyed it. So now there's 2 chronographs. But what if Gwyneth had then taken that chronograph? I got kind of distracted about what I was saying, but basically the chronograph that Lucy and Paul brought back into the past with them continued to exist throughout time like anything else would. And so Gwyneth finds that chronograph in her time and starts using it. But what I wanted to say was, what if Gwyneth brought that chronograph into the past again? Like, obviously she wouldn't do that because she doesn't want to leave her life in 2011, like all her friends and family and everything. But if she had done that, then there would have then been 4 chronographs in 1912. Would there then have been 2 chronographs for someone else to find in 2011 again? And the spare clunky chronographs they've been using since then. Is it just an infinite chronograph glitch? There was also, in the end, they really gloss over the fact that Gideon and Gwyneth are immortal. Like, they really say, surprise, you guys are immortal now. Figure it out. And they really have no like reckoning with their immortality or anything. I would love a sequel to this series, like they're adults now and they're like how their lives have like gone, and like how are they reckoning with their immortality and stuff. Also, the Comte Saint Germain was out to get Gwyneth because she had to die in order for his immortality to stay intact. But then Gideon becomes immortal even though Gwyneth is still very much alive and well. So how come Gwyneth didn't need to die for Gideon to be immortal, but she did need to die for the Comte to stay being immortal? Oh, another thing I want to say is that you can't, so the thing with the chronograph settings is that you can't set it to a time in your lifetime. So say you want to check in on yourself as a baby, like you can't do that. The like best you could do is like the day before you were born. But you can travel back to a time when a different version of you also traveled back to. And Gwyneth does that on accident. Gwyneth and Gideon both do that on accident. There was a time where Gwyneth, when she was still traveling uncontrolled, when she went back to the 1700s, and she saw a different version of herself, which she had not lived yet. But it was a different version of herself that was also in the 1700s on purpose. So, like, she went back to there with the chronograph. And she sees herself and Gideon. And they don't talk or anything. They make eye contact. They're like, whoa, that's me, I'm you. And then the earlier version of Gwyneth hides, and the later version of Gwyneth distracts Gideon so that he doesn't see her. But I don't really know why. Like, why would it have been bad for Gideon to see Gwyneth? Because at that point, he already knew that she was a time traveler. I guess she just did it because she knew that that's what she did. Because the older version of herself, she doesn't even know who Gideon is yet. But she just sees her future self distracting Gideon so that she can hide. So I guess then her older self distracts Gideon so that her younger self could hide. But like, I don't, like, it doesn't really make sense within the story, like why she would have to like trick Gideon, because Gideon already knows. And then Gideon runs into himself. Well, Gideon and Gwyneth both run into Gideon because they go to a time where Gideon was traveling on his own doing some mission for the secret society thing, and they knock him on the head. So you can travel to times where your same self has traveled before. So like, you could theoretically have conversations with yourself, and you know you can interact with yourself because Gideon bonked Gideon on the head and he got knocked down. And so I wonder, like, why didn't Gwyneth just go to the past to a time she knew she was going to be? Because it gets to a point where Gwyneth can travel by herself without the secret society when she finds the other chronograph. Why she doesn't just go back to a time where she knows she is and like tell her, listen, this is what's going on. This is why Lucy and Paul took the chronograph. Like, this is why you're also going to mess with the societies.